Hello, and welcome to part 3 of my series on the history of Gallifrey. In today's entry we'll be looking further into Gallifrey's history, more specifically into the Eternal War and the parallel rise of Rassilon. So, without further ado, let's begin. The Time of Chaos is a name applied rather inconsistently across Gallifrey's early history. Lady Painforth suggested that the Seventh Doctor had secrets relating to this time, meaning it was within the Doctor's lifetime at the very least. The 10th Doctor treated the term as synonymous with the Dark Times. Rassilon also equated the terms, once reminding the other that he had shut the gate on the Time of Chaos through the anchoring of the thread. In Quartinian's account of Gallifreyan history, however, the Time of Chaos was merely the second era of the Age of the Pythias. Charlie Pollard witnessed a simulation of the Great Mother's visit to Rassilon's foundry in the Time of Chaos. During the anchoring, or perhaps another experiment, Rassilon accidentally opened a doorway into the spiral Iskoroth, allowing the great vampires to escape and cause mass destruction. Gallifrey, led by Kopuin Lial a Mahajetsu, tried to stop them, leading to a 1,000-year eternal war. They eventually pushed them back into their own universe, plugging the holes with planets. One account suggested Rassilon was a commander during the war, her forces encountering the Ninth Doctor and Rose Tyler on a shadow planetoid. Whilst the war raged, Gallifrey was attacked by the Dalek Time Squad, who sought to prevent the rise of the Time Lords, only for the 8th, 9th and 10th Doctors to come to their homeworld's defence. Aboard the HMS Donna, and assisted by 3 coffin ships of free undead, they held the Daleks back until Inyit's final judgment killed most of the Dalek drones, who had been modified by symbiont DNA. The 8th Doctor then boarded their ship and caused an explosion, sending the Daleks careening into the time vortex away from Gallifrey. During the Time of Chaos, Validium came into use by the Time Lords. The First Doctor later took the Validium with him when he left Gallifrey. The power of the Pythia declined, and the neo-technologists led by Rassilon rose to power. According to Omega's unreliable memories, Rassilon rose to power through a revolution that lit the capital ablaze. Omega begged for Rassilon to stop the bloodshed, but Rassilon argued it was the only way they could establish a new government that would test their scientific theories. The last Pythia committed suicide, cursing Gallifrey to sterility. Members of the Pythian Order fled to Kharn and became the Sisterhood. War and chaos threatened the Empire. An ice age began, and Gallifrey's colonies demanded their freedom. The Time Lords had 3 main founders: the technological polymath Rassilon, the stellar engineer Omega, and the Other. There were also 3 other founders of Gallifrey, but no one could agree who they were. Candidates included Apeiron, the first Pandak, and Utenoia, a figure revered by cults across Gallifrey. The Necronomancers worshipped a paradoxical 7th founder, who they nicknamed the Other, a nameless, genderless, and historyless figure. It is unclear whether this Other was the same as the Other that was part of the Triumvirate, although their labelling 7th, which contrasts against the usual count of 6, implies a separate identity to the members of the Triumvirate. According to one account, Tecteun was involved in the foundation of the Time Lords, after discovering regeneration by cracking the Timeless Child's genetic code. To enable the Time Lords to travel throughout time without ill effects, Rassilon created the Rassilon Imprimatur, a bioimprimatur in Time Lord biodata responsible for mapping Time Lords onto the Vortex as pure mathematics. Some accounts suggest that he was also involved in the development of regeneration, but another claimed it came about from the first Tecteun's experiments on the Timeless Child. Omega used 2 stellar manipulators, the Hands of Omega, to detonate a star known as Quababa, to create a black hole from which the Time Lords drew the power for time travel. Omega travelled to Quababa to detonate it. According to one account, Fenris, a time-travelling assassin sent by the Order of the Black Sun, sabotaged the shielding on Omega's ship, and Omega was pulled into the newly created black hole. Through sheer force of will, Rassilon kept the Gallifreyan space station from being pulled into the black hole. He then found Fenris and banished him to the Zone of No Return. Although he survived in the antimatter universe, Omega was presumed dead. It was later rumoured Omega's death had been arranged by Rassilon and carried out by Omega's treacherous assistant, Van de Kirian. Recruiting time-sensitives from the outer regions beyond the capital, Rassilon began developing Type 1 TARDISes, using time travel technology salvaged from Fenris's belt to create a navigational system. The Archons claimed they had invented the seeds from which TARDISes grew. After a failed test flight of a Type 1 by Theta Sigma, who was actually the 11th Doctor, the first successful test flight of a prototype TARDIS took place on Henlin, 12 war TARDISes were then subsequently created to use against the vampires. The Eternal War came to an end after the creation of bow ships, originally designed by General Skelis and ordered into construction by Rassilon. All the great vampires were killed, except the king, who Rassilon spent a decade searching for in vain. When Kopyun Lial Hejetsu returned to Gallifrey after the war, he discovered that religion had fallen out of favour, and Rassilon had risen to power. He then left to guard the final opening, the 7 planets of the Althosian system that kept the Iskaroth trapped. To stabilise Gallifreyan society after the Pythia's curse, the Looms and Great Houses were created, and the High Council dissolved the monasteries and churches of Gallifrey. In the time of the anchoring of the thread, the Time Lords eventually surrendered the creative and changeable parts of their minds. The first batch of Loom bursts produced aberrations and monsters. Some were used as special operatives, but the majority were destroyed. Once the breeding engines were functional, the houses created the Mappers, who became the first temporal explorers sent forth by the Great Houses into their domain, tasked with mapping out the meridians of time and creating the first maps of the brand new spiral policy. Although they were successful, the Mappers all went insane sometime after their mission was completed, and were subsequently forgotten, like most of Gallifreyan history. And that is how Rassilon rose to power, and the Eternal War was won by the Time Lords. If you'd like to find out more about the Great Vampires side of the war and what happened to them, I have a video on them here. But anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe down below, as it really helps out the channel. More videos will be coming soon, including a new entry to the Luke Goldwyn series, which I am really excited about. Thanks for watching.